Hi everyone, hope you're all doing good. Okay, so this is the second round draw for the 39th edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard game. In our opening round, we started with 43 hopeful Lucky Bastards, and in this round, we're down to 22. So let's just quickly remind ourselves who those 22 Lucky Bastards are. They are Aidan Weller, '07, who's making his debut in this game. Got through his first ever round. He's hoping that the beginner's luck will carry on. Calfoth, Kenhager Chimpsmack, Costradamus, Damien Handel 420, Dr. Maxis 2, El Guapo, Gramork, Grayaman, Great, It's Your Boy SB, Jack Soto, Jordan and Pippin, of course, the alliance between QQQ, and Spockling, otherwise known as the All American Alliance, or unofficially known as that anyway. KK Kombu, Knife Rusty, Piggy Bank, Rigno, She's Keen, apologies if I've butchered that pronunciation of it. The Dirty UFC Man, the MMA Historian, and Trick. So, they are the 22 remaining lucky bastards in this game. And for this round, we got UFC Fight Night. Mateus Gamero versus Quellion Salkeld. And another, I suppose, if you want to call it a veteran versus a prospect, obviously, uh, main events that the UFC likes to put on. Obviously, Gamero being the veteran in this case with 30 fights in his career, 26 and 4. Killian Sal killed, only 12 and 1 by comparison. So experience definitely with Mateus Gamero, who's been around the lightweight division for feels like forever now. Um, Won against Esteban Ravovic by submission last time out to bounce back from his submission loss against Charles Oliveira. And yeah, like I say, he's a staple of the lightweight division at this point. So it's a real test for Quillian Salkild, who he's just been uh, absolutely sensational since he's come into the UFC. 5-0 in the promotion, undefeated so far in the promotion. One loss a few years back, but the only blemish on his record up until this point. Uh, Week one against uh, Dariush last time out, and in decisive fashion too with the knockout. So it's uh, and so far he's looked the real deal. Um, he's more than capable of getting fighters out of there very quickly, both by submission, by knockout. Very well-rounded prospects, and I think I think he's got a very very bright future in the UFC. I think he's going to win, obviously, given how much I've hyped him up. But I think it's going to be by decision. Though. I think Gamro's going to be a very stern test for him. Um, and Southfield has gone the distance before, and he's shown that he's capable of doing that. He's got the stamina to do that. And Gamero, I think, yeah, I think his experience it won't be enough to completely outwit and overpower the younger, hungrier fighter, but it will be enough to maybe teach him one or two things that I can't see him being finished. I wouldn't have thought unless he gets caught by something, but always a risk with Salkeld. But Salkeld by decision is my prediction for that one. But of course, you're not here to listen to my rambles, even though that is about 99% of these videos. These videos will be over in like 10 minutes if I just went through were the names. But anyway, seeing who you're going to get drawn within the Lucky Bastard game. And first up is Aidan Weller 07. Let's see if his luck continues in this round. And straight away, he gets Gianni Vasquez, the late replacement opponent of Miles Johns, of course. Gianni, and making his, well, technically his second stint in the UFC. He had one fight uh, before against uh, Javid Basharat, but he lost that one by unanimous decision. Also missed weight for that fight, from what I recall as well. So uh, obviously that wasn't a great first impression for the UFC, but Miles Johnson's original opponent, Jesse Rosas, has had to pull out. So in steps Gianni Vasquez on short notice. And it's always very hard to predict these short notice fights. Um, Vasquez, from what we've seen him so far, prefers to strike and he's first to keep it standing. And he's fairly experienced as well, 14-5-1 in his career. So it's, yeah, I'll say it's very, very tough to call. I've still gone with uh, Miles Johns for this one. Um, Originally, I did have Jesse Rosas to beat Miles Johns by first round submission, but now I think I'm going to go with Johns for a decision win here. Um, he is currently on a three-fight losing streak, and the reason I went with Rosas was because it did look like it was basically, obviously, Rosas 8-1 prospect. Um, and the UFC would have wanted to have built him up and get him a good win here and then probably part ways with Johns. But obviously, Rosas pulling out, throwing a spanner in that works. And in a way, it's a sort of a redemption fight for both Vasquez and Johns, isn't it? It's Vasquez proving that he deserves a second chance in the UFC. And Johns, for him, is that chance to break that three-fight losing streak. So a must-win fight for both of them, really, in terms of their careers. So even though it's a last-minute one on the prelims, there is a hell of a lot riding on this fight for both of these guys' careers. So yeah, I wouldn't want to call it, but I am going with Johns for a decision. But this is a real toss-up. I think anything could happen here. It's so Aidan Weller, your fate is very much still to be decided. You're not definitely out. You're not definitely through. And I mean, nobody is one way or another. But yeah, it's there's probably more comfortable rides to be on than the late minute replacement. But anyway, we move on now to Kalfoth. Let's see who Kalfoth is going to be matched with. And Kalfoth gets Ty Miller, much more comfortable pick. Uh, Probably, in my opinion, the best you can be on for this round up against Billy Ray Goff. And yeah, all I can say is that Miller is a heavy favourite for this one, and so he should be. Won his UFC debut last time out against Adam Fugit by a technical knockout. Um, is a lot of his finish to come by knockout, and they've come early um, in the first round, but has gone the distance a few times as well. So he's got the stamina there. It's not a case of if you survive the first round, you can maybe gas him out and hope for a decision win because he's still going to be there round two and round three as well. So it's even though so far, funny enough, it has always all his fights have been either the first round or gone the distance. Nothing in between. No second rounds, no third rounds. But he does have that stamina to him. Billy Ray Goff, 1 and 2 in the UFC, struggling to adapt to UFC level, if we're being completely honest. He won his UFC debut, but then lost the next two. Um, Lost against Ramiz Brahimaj by submission last time, and again he tends to try and keep it standing and look for an early knockout. And if he does that against Ty Miller, that's going to play perfectly into Miller's hands. So I don't see any realistic way Billy Ray Goff wins this. But for Calforth, I'm saying this is probably, even though there's no certainties, this is probably as certain a pick as you can hope for. And I'd be very confident of seeing Calforth into the third round. So let's see if Canhego Ruiz is going to be as lucky as Calforth. And Canhego Ruiz gets Richie Miranda. Richie Miranda for Canhego Ruiz. And up against Manuel Osusa. Miranda making his UFC debut. And mostly known for his time in the LFA, where he obviously was the champion over there, 10-1 records, managed to amass over there. Now this is his step up into the UFC. Now thinks that he's ready for the biggest promotion on earth, and well, biggest MMA promotion on earth, I should say anyway. And yeah, I believe it's about time as well. And as for Manuel Sousa, he won his UFC debut last time. Um, and he's not had as impressive, I'd say, a record before that. He fought once in the PFL, fought once in the LFA, and to be fair, he won those fights as well. Also fought in Bellator a couple of times, going 1-1 there. Um, and yeah, as I say, his debut was knockout win against Balaji Oki. And always looks for the finish, so he always makes for exciting fights, and it's very much himself a very interesting prospect. So is 14-1, and Miranda's 13-1. I think the key difference though is Miranda's 11 fights in the LFA and his time as the LFA champion. So made two defenses there, of course. So it's I think that experience is going to be the main deciding factor that separates these two. So from Canhego Arise's point of view, I think that's another uh, fairly reasonable one. See, the bookies have got Miranda as a slight underdog for this. I don't agree with that. Um, I don't know, but I don't quite understand how the bookies have come to that conclusion. But I've gone with Miranda by decision for my prediction. Okay, Chimps Mac is next to learn his fate. Let's see who Chimps Mac gets matched with. And Chimps Mac gets Dr. Nurgozahe. I apologize for completely butchering that name. Um, and butchered spelling of it, no doubt, as well. Dr. Nurgozhay. There we go. And up against Bruno Lopez, light heavyweight clash, and is again very similar situation between these two because they're both 1 and 2 in the UFC. Um, So both really do need a win in the promotion. And they're both similar in their careers as well. Dion Zahay is 11-2 in his career, and Lopez slightly more experienced, 14 wins, 3 losses. Um, Personally, I've gone with Lopez by submission. Um, Generally, um, he's not too fussed whether it's uh, comes by knockout or submission, but he always does look for the finishes and always tries to spend as little time in the cage as possible. Which is never a bad idea, I suppose, isn't it? It's a dangerous sport. Why would you want to be in that cage for as long as you're as longer than you need to be? Um, the main reason I've gone with my sub is that all of Nur, or both of us, I should say, Nurgazahay's losses have been by submissions. I'd say, is a weak spot of his game, and um, that's definitely something Lopez can capitalize on. I think Lopez would be stupid to strike with Nurgasahay. Just take it to the ground, and I think that's you're going to be the easiest path to victory. But unfortunately, though, it's Chimsmack's been drawn with Nurgasahay, so he'll be hoping that Nurgasahay does find a way around Lopez's tricky ground game and squeeze out a win one way or another. But Lopez takes this one from me. So I think Chimpsmack is going to be needing a bit of luck in this round. Okay, Costradamus is next to discover his fate. Let's see who the wheel has in store for Costradamus. And it is Billy Carantillo for Costradamus. Uh, Another UFC veteran there. Um, Try and spell it right. Yeah. Billy Q. I'm just going to call him Billy Q now, I think, from here on in. Obviously, in the co-main event, rather, uh, against Diego Ferreira. And as I said, veteran of the promotion, 18-7 in his career, 6-5 in the UFC. So even though he's not ever really been the at the absolute cream of the crop of lightweights, he's always been uh, there or there. Well, not right at the top, but I mean like in the rankings of lightweight or in the lower part of the rankings. He's been a consistent fighter in the UFC. Shows that he belongs there, and yeah, he's I suppose in some ways he's become a bit of a lightweight gatekeeper of the lower rankings and sort of a measuring stick, so to speak. And I think that's what is going to be the uh, well, it's going to be a bit of a test for Ferreira, of course, as it is against anyone. But Ferreira himself, also a veteran of MMA, 19-7, and surprisingly 10-7 in the UFC. If, off the top of my head, if I had to take a guess as to who had been the more active or who had been the most UFC fights between Carantillo and Diego Ferreira, I'd have said Carantillo, but to be fair, looking over his records last night, he's definitely been a lot more active, which has helped, and of course does have a few years on Carantillo. Carantillo 37, Ferreira 41. Um, so it's a sort of a battle of the veterans, really. Um, Sort of the two measuring sticks, I suppose, of lightweight uh, division, sort of being paired against each other. Um, so I suppose not really a huge amount at stake for either of them particularly, but a win does help secure their next payday, I suppose, in the main card fight, possibly on a one of their numbered promotions, but on numbered shows rather. And both do need a win. Both are on two fight losing streaks. So for me, I have gone with Ferreira for a second round knockout, but I suppose the veterans they're quite hard to predict sometimes as well, unless you've got one that's clearly more faded than the other. But I wouldn't necessarily that's the case for this one. Um, I say I've gone with Ferreira, but Carantillo very capable of winning this as well. Wouldn't be too surprised if he did. That would hardly be the biggest shock in MMA history, would it? But Costradamus will need a bit of luck here, but he's in with a chance in our co-main event battle of the veterans. Okay, Damien Handel 420s next to take on the wheel. Let's see what the wheel's got in store for Damien Handel 420. Right on the edge there, but the wheel decides it is another UFC veteran in Darren Elkins. Uh, Darren Elkins, Darren the Damage Elkins. It's never known a fighter to be have a more appropriate nickname because he takes a hell of a lot of damage and just keeps going. Very, very tough fighter. And I suppose to that extent, you're always in with a chance, but he will need a lot of. He's going to need a lot of luck here because he's a massive underdog against Yadir Deval. And the positive for Elkins, of course, he's got a ton more experience. Uh, his overall MMA record stands 29 wins, 12 losses, 19 and 11 in the UFC alone. Yadir Deval is 10 and 1 in his career. So DeVale's had as many MMA fights as Elkins has had UFC losses, which is an insane way of uh, comparing the golfing experience between the two of them. Um, DeVale, for his UFC career, has got off to a respectable 2-1 start in the promotion. Um, although that one loss was his last fight against Jordan Leavitt, which he lost by decision. So it'd be interesting to see how he bounces back from this. And I'd argue that someone like Elkins is an ideal bounce back opponent for him. It's a named fighter that fans will recognise and one that would give him a war too, because I don't see um, I don't see Elkins just completely folding over straight away. Um, I say he's mainly a submission threat, but Zavale, but Elkins, he spent enough time on the ground to I see he would be able to counter that. He certainly would have back in the day. I'm just wondering if he's now a little bit too old, perhaps. But I've gone with DeVale, mate. If he's going to finish, it'll be by sub. But I'm half tempted to say, uh, excuse me, I'm half tempted to say DeVale by decision as well. But simply because of how bloody tough Elkins is. But DeVale by the submission would probably be my final pick for this one. And as much as I'd love for Elkins to win this, I have to admit that Damien Handel's going to need a lot of luck to get through this round. Okay, so we move on to Dr. Maxis 2. Let's see who Dr. Maxis 2 is going to be matched with. And he gets Miles Johns. That means that's our first head-to-head. Miles Johns, of course, fighting against uh, Gianni Vasquez, who I think it was Aiden Weller '07 who ended up with Vasquez. So it's Dr. Maxis 2 versus Aidan Miller 07 for our first head-to-head fight in this round. Miles Johns versus Gianni Vasquez, and again, it's the um, unpredictable fights where Vasquez obviously taking it on very short notice, only a couple of days' notice. Of course, I'm sure. Oh, it's really can't stop yawning at the moment, but I'm sure he'll be right up for it. And obviously be prepared for the fight. And as I've said, this is a hugely important fight for both of them. Um, as obviously Vasquez trying to prove he deserves a second chance in the promotion, and John's trying to prove he deserves to stay in the promotion. So I've again sided with Miles Johns, but as I've mentioned earlier, anything could happen in this. I mean, anything can happen in any MMA fight, but when we start talking about last minute fights, when there's this much pressure on both fighters, fuck knows what's going to happen. Anything could happen. Um, it's going to make for a very intriguing contest, and the fact that there's a head-to-head in this game's for it that fight as well, that only makes it even more intriguing from the point of view of this game. Okay, so we move on to El Guapo. Let's see who El Guapo is going to be matched with by the wheel. And that's another head to head as he gets Billy Ray Goff for El Guapo. Um, Billy Ray Goff, of course, fighting Ty Miller. Just check who was it got Ty Miller? It was Calfoth who got Ty Miller earlier, probably the luckiest person so far. Um, so yeah, that's the second head to head. Billy Ray Goff versus Ty Miller. El Guapo versus Calfoth, and there's no sugarcoating it. Timer is a massive favourite. He should be a massive favourite. Um, Still undefeated, still 7-0. Won his UFC debut very impressively last time. And not much else to say other than that he's a pure knockout artist. And has also proven that he's more than capable of going the distance if he does get forced into deep waters. Billy Ray Goff, 9-4 in his career, and like I say, he's trying to prove he's still like the other fighters on this card, quite a lot of fighters on this card to be honest, trying to prove they still belong in the promotion. Uh, could be at risk of being cut if he loses, and it does look like they're basically the UFC are basically feeding him to Ty Miller to get a highlight reel on Miller's record, and well, I mean, he's got enough of them anyway, but it's another clip for them to use in their promotions. And yeah, I just don't see any way Goff wins this. I think Miller has only ever lost. He's never won or lost a fight by submission, so maybe you could say potentially that's a weakness of his. But Goff isn't really going to be the fighter who takes this to the ground. I don't think. I think if he's going to just come out and start swinging straight for the fences, and yeah, I think it's well, I think Aguapo's out, to be frank. There's no other way of putting that. That's a very bad pick, unfortunately. So best of luck, El Guapo, but unfortunately, I think you're going to need every ounce of that luck in order to get through. Okay, so we move on to Graham Ork, also making his debut in the game, who also survived his first ever round. So let's see if the luck continues for Graham Ork. Oh, that's interesting. Gianni Vasquez, who so that means that now both of the debutants, that's still in. Actually, no, we've still got Sheikh Kine making his debut, making their debut in the game as well. But two of our debutants on the same fighter anyway. Uh, G on Gianni Vasquez. Probably not spelled that right, but yeah, as yeah, double N. Uh, but yeah, as I've mentioned a couple times now with this fight, especially given Miles Johns also come up, Dr. Max's two. So this is now a 2v1 um, with Graham Walker and Aidan Weller versus uh, Dr. Max's two. And Vasquez, like I say, filling in on short notice. Massive respect for him for doing that because it's always better to have a late notice fight than to have a fight cancelled completely because of a fight pulling out at the last minute. So it's good that he stepped up, and we're all grateful for that. And it will make for a very intriguing fight, as I've said, very important fight for both fighters here. Um, I'd suspect Vasquez would want to try keep it standing, but it's he's gone the distance as well a few times, but so that's definitely definitely an option. Try and just sort of fight a more cautious fight against Miles Johns, but given the circumstances, I'm really in no position to try and predict how this is going to play out. So best of luck, and that's yeah, 2v1 at the moment. So I suppose this is shaping up to be our unofficial Lucky Bastard Game main event for this round. Okay, so we move on to Grahamon. Grahamon is next to learn his fate. Let's see who he ends up with. And that's unfortunate. It's Billy Ray Goff. So that is now two on Billy Ray Goff, who, which also makes it another 2v1. As it was El Guapo also had Billy Ray Goff, and it was Calfoth who had Ty Miller. Just scrolled back up to check that. But yeah, so Billy Ray Goff, who doesn't have a chance, if I'm being completely honest. There's not really much more I can say about this other than gush about Miller, but so I suppose you can argue that Miller's not really. He's still green, still only 7-0, and he's only won his UFC debut so far. So it's still very early days with Ty Miller to see how far he will go in his MMA career, whether he'll be a future champion or whether he'll fizzle out. But just needs to focus on taking it one fight at a time. And his next fight against Billy Ray Goff is one he should be winning, quite decisively, I've thought too. So, first round knockout for Ty Miller. There's my pick, and unfortunately, I think Graham and El Guapo will also be going out as a result of that. Plus, anyone else who might get drawn with Billy Ray Goff later on in this draw. Okay, so Great is next to learn his fate. Um, let's see. Let's see who's going to be matched with. I believe he's still permanently banned on Tapology, had his account deleted or removed. Bruno Lopez for Great. Bruno Lopez. Is that with an S or with a Z? In the end, it's with an S. Again, never quite sure whether the ends with an S or a Z uh, for the Spanish names. Also makes their head-to-heads. Someone also got drawn with Dion Nurzoga earlier, didn't they? Which again, I'm gonna have to apologise for butchering that. Though, yeah, it's Chimp Smack. Just scrolled up to check. Chimp Smack versus Great is another head-to-head in this match. Then, as I've said before for this one, um, Bruno Lopez by first round submission is my pick for that. So Great is definitely on the right side of this head to head. Even though he won by knockout last time out against or lost rather against Navarro Sterling, I can't really knock him for that because it's Navarro Sterling fought last week, of course, and showed how good he is. He's a real prospect, and so I'm not going to put a ton of weight on that loss. Remember how good he was before, and how good he was in the LFA, even if it's been a bit of a rough start to his UFC tenure. Um, but I think Lopez is going to capitalize on what I perceive to be maybe a slight weakness in Nurgazah's game, given he's been finished by submission twice. That would be the game plan if I was Lopez's coach. But again, I'm not an MMA coach, so what the fuck am I talking about? I don't know shit about how you'd go about planning for a fight like that. But uh, all I can say for this game is that is, in my opinion, anyway, a very good pick. Um, should see him through to the third round. Okay, so it's your boy SB is next up. Let's see who the wheels got in store for it's your boy SB. And he gets one of our main eventers, Mateus Gamero. Mateus Gamero for it's your boy SB. And as I've mentioned in the beginning of the video, it's another veteran versus prospect. Gamero, of course, being the veteran in this scenario. And it's still hanging around the lightweight rankings, and so he should really. Um, yes, yeah, that submission loss against Charles Oliveira, but 99.999% of the people on the planet lose an MMA fight against Charles Oliveira. So especially when he's so dominant in the submission. But having said that, Quillian Salkills he just looks absolutely incredible. Um, Normally, I'm tempted to side with the veteran in these kind of fights, thinking that there's a few tricks that uh, the younger fighter might not have picked up on, just stuff that only comes with experience. But Salkills has just demolished the opposition he's had previously. So I can't I can't see the momentum being stopped completely. I think he's still going to win this. Um, Gamrose, I would expect him to make a very good effort of this and quite possibly go the distance as well. Which, if he does survive against that, could be a win that ages very well. And if Salkeld goes on to potentially be a champion or at least a very high ranked fighter for a long time. Um, but Mateus Gamro is the underdog here, in my opinion. So I think it's your boy SB gonna need a little bit of luck here. Unfortunately, I feel like I've said that quite a few times. Maybe this is going to be a massacre of a draw. Anyway, Jack Soto next to see who he'll be matched with. And she gets Ravina Oliveira. Ravina Oliveira for Jack Soto. And, up against Juliana Miller. Um, Oliveira having the better record on paper, wins, four losses, one draw in the in her career, but 0-3 in the UFC. Fought three times, lost three times. Uh, got knocked out by Chantel Dyer in her last fight, and by comparison, even though Juliana Miller's record is in theory worse than Oliveira's at four wins, four losses. She's gone 2-3 in the UFC. So she's had more fights in the promotion and established a better record within the promotion. Also fought in Invicta as well. So she's been fighting at a decent level pretty much her whole career, in other words. Uh, Lost the unanimous decision against Carly Judas the last time out. Um, I'd say she'll probably be looking for a submission win. That's probably her strongest route to victory. Um, Very tough fighter to finish herself as well. So if Ravina Oliveira is going to get a win and a finish win at that, she'll have to pull up something incredible, something very special that's will catch will catch Miller off. But yeah, like I say this is one of those. This is probably the epitome. If you're just looking at fighter stats, you'll go wrong all the time. Because this is a case of, in my opinion, that Miller should be the favourites and a fairly modest one as well, a fairly moderate favourite, and uh, Oliveira. I wouldn't go as far as to say no hope, but very unlikely. Uh, so yeah, I think that the main difference there will be the old iron sharpens iron theory of Juliana Miller having fought better fighters. That sort of rubs off on her and uh, made her a better fighter, in my opinion. So I think Jack Soto gonna need a bit of luck here as well. Okay, Jordan and Pippin, QQQ, and Spotling's Alliance. Let's see who the All Americans end up with. And they get Hermie Pat for Jordan and Pippin. Wrong thing there. Again, I probably butchered the spelling of Guilherme's Pat's name as well, but so apologies for that. Probably butchered the pronunciation of it as well. Up against the much easier to pronounce Stephen Asplund, uh, who I've also picked to win the fight as well. Uh, by knockout in the second rounds, could put him away in the first. Guilherme Pat's 1-1 in the UFC. Coincidentally, so's Asplund. And Pat is coming off a majority decision loss against the Lucky Bastard Game Hall of Famer Thomas Peterson in his last fights. So no shame in that. Thomas Peterson proving to be a decent heavyweight, a decent addition to the very thin UFC heavyweights division, it must be said. But he's well, like a lot of heavyweights, Pat, looking for knockouts. That's tends to be a game plan, obviously, for a lot of the big guys, and that makes sense. Heavy hitters, you're going to try knock them out, and he's a very patient one, though. To be fair, he doesn't just rush in there and always get the first round knockout. He will bide his time, can finish you in the second and third rounds as well. So he remains a constant threat. As long as Pat is still in the fight, it's um going to be a problem uh for uh for Asplund, or at least a threat to Asplund. But uh yeah, I still think that Asplund, of the two fighters, is I'd say the stronger of the two. And he's again similar kind of style, again a pure knockout artist, similar style to Pat, and patience as well. So that, and also the fact that I think up until this point Asplund's had better opponents as well. I think Asplund wins this one by knockout. So I think Jordan and Pippin's going to need a bit of luck here. Okay, so next is KK Kombu. Let's see who KK Kombu going to be matched with. And KK Kombu is drawn with Billy Ray Goff, which is unfortunate. Quite a few have been lumped with Billy Ray Goff so far, and he's possibly the biggest underdog on the cards against Ty Miller. Not really much I can add to this one, other than that I'm expecting, like pretty much everyone else here, Ty Miller to get the knockout win in the first round, and yeah, I think it's yeah, I just this is just I just don't really see any realistic way Billy Ray Goff wins, if I'm honest. In theory, Goff is the more experienced of the two, having more fights under his belt, but um, it's just not. It just doesn't bode well for him, really. Being 1-2 in the promotion 2 fight losing streak, um, and um, the fact that his style will be exactly how Miller wants the fight to play out. So Miller will want to keep the fight standing. Billy Ray Goff would probably oblige as well. So this is just a terrible pick. So yeah, apologies to anyone else who gets drawn with Billy Ray Goff in this round. Okay, so we move on to Knife Rusty. Let's see who Knife Rusty is going to be matched with. It's Diego Ferreira. Uh, Diego Ferreira for Knife Rusty. So that's in the co-main event. Uh, very the co-main event, obviously against Billy Carantillo, who I believe it was Damas got drawn with. So that's another head-to-head, and I say in the Battle of the Veterans, and this time though, I think very yeah, that's probably the right spelling for it according to my spell check, isn't it? Let's be honest. Uh, and I think Ferrier is going to be on the right side of this matchup, gone by second round knockout. Uh, Normally, I wouldn't really be backing a 41-year-old to win, but against 37-year-old Billy Carantillo, it's I'd say they're um, on similar, basically a similar stage. They're both right at the end of their careers. Sadly, have given us great entertainment over the years. So massive respect to both of the fighters. Um, but for this one, they'll just look ahead to each other, and it's uh, both on two fight losing streaks. In Ferreira's case, he's lost against, or got knocked out rather by Alexander Hernandez. Very dangerous ground and pound though for Ferreira. That's the main trademark. If you end up on the ground, he's not going to give you much time to recover. Uh, Obviously, someone like Carantillo's is going to know how to handle that, get knocked down, sort of shell up and cover up immediately. But also while fighting back, so you're not just taking hits and the ref stops it. But Carantillo definitely will be able to handle that without too many issues, I'd have thought. But overall, I still think Ferreira's going to win this. So I think a decent pick for Knife Rusty there. Piggy Bank next to take on the wheel. So let's see who Piggy Bank gets drawn with. And Piggy Bank gets Amanda Lemos. So Amanda Lemos there for Piggy Bank. And up against Alexia Thiania. Again, apologies if I've mispronounced that name. But I have picked Alexia to win by a decision here. She's got off to a great start through her UFC career, 3-0, 14-1 in her whole career so far to this point. Won against Bruna Brazil last time out, and always a very dangerous submission threat. And also proves got the stamina as well. Can last the distance if need be as well. So it's it's basically either a submission or a submission win for Alexia Theana, in my opinion. And Amanda Lemos is experienced enough that I don't think she's going to get caught out by. Um, well, I think she probably wouldn't get caught out by um, a sub at this stage, given that she's got a bit more experience under her belt. But could do. I mean, but she's a veteran herself. I think she'd be a bit wise to any tricks Tiana um uh Tiana might try and pull on her, for instance. Because I mean, obviously, more inexperienced fighters they tend to a problem starts if submissions it's already in uh halfway through before they start reacting to the problem before they realise there's the severity of the situation they're in. Or someone, a veteran like Lemos, will obviously instinctively know the steps to prevent an attempt even happening in the first place. As a part that really does give the veterans an edge is the work that they do to prevent themselves ending up in dangerous situations instead so they're not constantly fighting off submission threats. But um, I think Lemos will be able to keep Theana's subs at bay, but um, ultimately, Alex Tiara's work rate is going to get the best of her, at least in the eyes of the judges, anyway. So, decision win for Alexis Theriana, and unfortunately for Piggy Bank, I think Amanda Lemos going to be needing every ounce of her experience in order to win this. Uh, and obviously, Piggy Bank's going to have to raise his piggy bank for every ounce of luck he's got. But okay, so we move on now to Rigno. Let's see what the wheel has in store for Rigno. Louis Sutherland for Rigno. Oh, excuse me, I was yawning again. All right, Louis Sutherland for Rigno. And got a unanimous decision win against Tai Tuivasa last time out, and he needed that because otherwise he'd have been 0-3 in the UFC. As it is, he's 1-2 now. That might have saved his place in the UFC, that win against Tuivasa. And the fact that even though, if we're being completely honest, Tuivasa isn't exactly the best heavyweight on the roster, he's very popular with the fans. He's a fan favourite. He'd have been cut a long time ago if it wasn't for all his shoeys and things like that. So a good win against a name that uh, fans recognise. That's always going to set him up well. So it'll be looking. Sutherland will be looking to bounce off from that and uh, sort of get his MMA run, UFC run rather, back on track. And yeah, it's like most heavyweights. Looks for knockouts, looks to try and end fights early. Uh, Vastly more experienced over his opponent, Jose Montana, who's a very good looking prospect so far, making his UFC debut in this fight. Um, was a regional champion in Curitiba Fight Pro, um, which I'll admit, I'm not going to lie, I'm not really familiar with that promotion at all, but regional champion, so that's always a good sign. Yeah. And so he's definitely got some skills about him. But Sutherland is definitely the more experienced of the two, and that's going to be the key difference here, in my opinion. Um, Montana is a bit of a submission specialist, though, judging from what we've seen of his judging from his previous fights. So it'd be interesting to see is his submission game enough to cause Sutherland prospect problems? I don't know, but I wouldn't have thought so. But maybe that's an angle that uh, we've not really considered. But Sutherland, the heavy favourite for me. I think Rigno should get into the third round fairly comfortably. Okay, so the last of our debutants, She Kane or She Keen. I'm assuming the shish is like well, shish kebab, obviously. So but second pass that I'm probably butchering, so apologies to Sheesh for that. And let's see who Sheesh ends up with. Oh, that's unfortunate. Billy Rakoff. Yeah, okay, Billy Rakoff again. He's come up a lot. How many people are on Billy Rakoff? Four or five now. Um, Out of all, I mean, it always happens that there's one fighter the wheel seems to land on a lot more than others. There's always one fighter who, if they're not already a part of the unofficial main events, they become the main fighter to watch because of how many they could take through or take out of the competition. It seems that Billy Ray Goff is that guy for us this week. Also happens to be a massive underdog against Ty Miller. So yeah, not really a lot I can say to this other than that I just don't see Goff winning this fight at all. So I think that is as good as a death sentence for Sheesh, unfortunately. Um, so that's your debut in the game pretty much come to an end, but it's been great having you. As it's been great having the other ones who've also been drawn with Billy Ray Goff, but I think this is where your run in this game comes to an end, and who knows, maybe you can pull off an upset, but I wouldn't hold your breath. Okay, the Dirty UFC Man is next. Let's see who the Dirty UFC Man's going to wind up with. And he's also on Louis Sutherland. Louis Sutherland for the Dirty UFC Man, just like Rigno moments ago. And as I mentioned, of course, that was a crucial win against Tuivasa last time, and got serious knockout power, and also stamina as well is impressive as well. The fact that he can go the distance. Where a lot of fighters, so a lot of the heavyweights, besides the ones right at the top, of course. The amount of times is basically two guys in there. They'll have maybe a very entertaining first round, but then they've got nothing left for the second and third. Uh, Sutherland's has gassed a little bit in some of his fights, but overall hasn't looked too bad. Or compared to some of the other ones, it's not like a Dada 5000 or whatever his name was, where he just straight up fucking collapsed in his fight against oh, who was it? Oh, it was the late oh, fuck's sake, Kimbo Slice, of course, the late great Kimbo Slice, and the Dada 5000 or 500, can't remember what his name was exactly, but and I don't know why he just popped into my mind. I was just thinking of heavyweights that just gas out, and the mental image of him just running alongside the cage in Bellator, just fucking collapsing and looking like he's dead, just came to mind. But anyway, uh, that's not going to happen to Louis Sutherland, is what I'm saying. Um, it's probably going to finish it early as well, so I don't think the stamina's in this particular fight is necessarily going to be something you have to worry about too much. He'll be looking to get in there, get out quickly, and uh, this is, of course, Jose Montana's first crack at the UFC, first taste of this level of competition. Will he be able to handle the pressure of someone like Sutherland putting uh, those kind of heavy shots on him straight from the off? We'll see. But we do know that Montana would try and take it to the ground. Let's see if he's capable of even bringing the absolute beefcake that is Sutherland to the ground in the first place. Um, but yeah, I think to be fair, the dirty UFC man should be seeing the third round. As should Rigno, of course. Okay, the MMA historian is hoping he's not consigned to the Lucky Bastard game history books for this game at least, and let's see who he ends up with. Juliana Miller for the MMA historian there. Juliana Miller for the MMA historian. And up against Ravina Oliveira, who's obviously so far just hasn't shown to be UFC level, if we're being honest. Um, I think Juliana Miller's going to be the one who sends her packing from the promotion. Uh, she's still fairly new to MMA herself, still only 8 fights into her career, but she's been fighting good people, and it is so often the case in MMA, it is quality over quantity, and that's definitely been the case for Miller. Um, having spent most of her career in the UFC and in Victor, of course. Um, Oliveira, is there any real way she wins? Off the top of my head, I don't really think so. Again, she was a former regional champion herself, so again, she's good fighter, but not quite UFC level, in my opinion. So I think Miller, to be frank, is just levels above Oliveira, and I think once Miller gets it to the ground, it's going to be over. So second round submission for Juliana Miller there. And finally, we have Trig. Let's see who Trig is going to be matched with. And he gets Del Val, a new name to finish off with. Yadier Del Val. Del Val for Trig. Um, Darren Elkins came up earlier on in the who was it? Let's scroll back up quickly. Who was it at Elkins? It was someone very early on, wasn't it? Damien Handel 420 had Darren Elkins. So this is a head-to-head, of course. And Deval is the heavy favourites. Um, Probably rivals Ty Miller for being the card's heaviest favourite. I haven't really looked too heavily at the odds, but um, having said that, I mean, I wouldn't, not that it makes any difference because I certainly wouldn't be betting against someone as tough as Darren Elkins. That's for true, but Deval should be winning this, in my opinion. He's mainly a submission threat. He does have some power to him, to be fair. He does have the ability to finish fights if need be, but he'll look to take this to the ground, I'm sure. And we obviously, if he kept it standing, Darren Elkins is more than happy to get into a scrap. Um, and that probably wouldn't suit Deval. Deval probably still might come up on top on that exchange, but who knows? But I don't think he'll be that stupid. He knows the he knows what he's well, at least I like to think he does anyway. At least I like to think he's got good people around him, a good team that's basically said him, look, just do it, just take it the easy way, take Elkins to the ground and just submit him there. Don't try and get into a war with this guy because Elkins can eat shots for days. He can just his his toughness is incredible. But yeah, Duval should definitely try and look to win this by submission. That's what I've gone for. First round submission as well. Um, so yeah, all in all, I think this is uh, a very good uh, note to end on. Given that's the last person to be drawn with, I think Trig will be seeing third round as well. Okay, so that concludes the second round draw for the 39th edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard game. Let's just go through those names one more time, remind ourselves who's been drawn with who. I won't bother doing all the permutations and head-to-heads and all the rest of that malarkey. I'll just run through and tell you who's got who. So this is Aidan Weller, '07 with Gianni Vasquez. Cal Fock with Ty Miller. Kenhager Ariz with Richie Miranda. Chimus Mac with DR Nurgozahay. Apologies for butchering your name there. Costradamus with Billy Carantillo. Damien Handel 420 with Darren Elkins. Dr. Maxis 2 with Miles Johns. El Guapo with Billy Ray Goff. Graham Walk with Gianni Vasquez. Graham with Billy Ray Goff. Great with Bruno Lopez. It's your boy SB with Mateus Gamro. Jack Soto with Ravina Oliveira. Jordan and Pippin with Gulhemery Pat. KK Kombu with Billy Ray Goff, Knife Rusty with Diego Ferreira, Piggy Bank with Amanda Lemos, Rigno with Louis Sutherland, Sheesh Kine with Billy Ray Goff, The Dirty UFC Man with Louis Sutherland, The MMA Historian with Juliana Miller, and finally Trig with Yadia Deval. Okay, so that concludes the second round draw, and all that leaves me to say is best of luck to all of you. I feel like we've got this is I've just got a horrible feeling a lot of you are going to get knocked out in this round, actually, not least all the ones that were drawn with Billy Ray Goff. Um, but who knows? I think this is going to whittle the field down a bit more, um, quite significantly, I'd have thought. Um, but best of luck to all of you, and all that leaves me to say is best of luck with your picks on Tapology, as I believe if you end up in the top three of Tapology's UFC picks, you can win some boxing gloves. I haven't really looked too close to the competition because there's no way I'm finishing in the top three. But in any case, but that's cool that Tapology are doing stuff like that, though. But anyway, best of luck with all your picks for that. If you've got any real bets on this card, good luck with those. But until next week, so long for now.